Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Blast from the Past. So today on Blast from the Past, I'm going to feature a piece that I love so much that I've done quite a few years back, and that is the crow. And this was a kit that was hand sculpted, not digital sculpted, hand sculpted by a gentleman named Naren. And this is a highly sought after piece, and what's so unique about it is traditionally sculpted. In other words, Naren actually hand sculpted this. There was no digital technology around that time, or wasn't readily available like it is today. And another thing is I actually hand painted this as well. I did not do any airbrushing whatsoever. So what you see is all hand painted, and that took a while and took a long time to get it just right. And just the hand sculpt, the hands alone, and just the anatomy on this is just unbelievable. I mean, look at the hair, the individual strands of hair. And again, what I did was I painted this using just hand paints, and on the eyes there, I basically used a pastel, a black pastel, to get that shading on there. And I kind of did that throughout the piece itself. But the detail on this is just exceptional. I mean, with the individual strands here on the suit, where the tape was he used, and even the buttons, and as you can see where it does button, the cracks and everything, and the folds. I mean, it was just unbelievable how he accomplished all of this. In you know, even the boots. I mean, I did just a dirty old dusty brown worn leather, black leather on top of that, and actually the boots up underneath, the soles are highly detailed as well. So I mean, it's just an amazing piece altogether. And as you can see right here, he actually used this nameplate that was just a really nice touch, and you can see it's like embossed and everything with the actual logo. So that was really, really cool. So most of you know that Brandon Lee was actually killed during the making of this movie here by a freak accident. And I really love Naren's take on this. So I bought this kit. I'm not sure how much I paid for it, but it wasn't really much. But one thing I can tell you is this kit is very, very heavy. So I'm not sure if it's a poly resin or a poly stone, but this thing probably weighs about 20 to 25 pounds by itself. And the base is actually hollow. The other thing about this one too is Naren actually released several of these. I have one of the ones from the first batches that he released, and it actually has a nameplate on it. In the front and on the back, it also has a number plate, which this one is number 52, and the inside of the base is also signed by Naren. So there were a lot of recasts that people come out with, and the way that you could tell that this was an actual genuine Naren piece was he actually signed the inside of the base. So yeah, you can see the number plate on there that he used. Again, it's a separate plate that was just glued onto there. This is to how you can tell that you have an original and not a recast, is that Naren actually signed this himself, and I think that's a really nice touch from the sculptor. Now, this came in several pieces, and I just remember that this thing was hard to keep glued together because of how heavy it was. So I actually used a two-part epoxy resin. I think the feet were separate, the legs from the torso, and then of course there's like a little strand of hair right here. And I don't remember if the head was a separate piece, but the chair itself come in a few pieces, and of course the base was just one big gigantic piece, and you just had to put the plate on the front and on the back. So I basically painted this using just a regular flat black, but on the parts where the gauntlets, I guess you could say, I think it was duct tape that he used in the movie, but I did put the gloss on that as well, and I did the gold bands that he used and the gold buttons. And like for the chair, you know, I just did a nice gold on that as well, like on some of the highlights and accents. But just an incredible piece itself. Just the look, I mean, from the standpoint, if you look at that face, man, it's just unbelievable. It's eerie looking to really see this in person, and much less on camera. And he's also done some other pieces. He did a Hellboy piece, which was incredible. and a few other things that he's done. And I'm not sure what he's doing now, but I also think, if I remember right, he was noted for his Predator pieces. I mean, he did some incredible Predator pieces that were done by hand. So to go along with this, I actually had bought a quarter scale bust, which is this guy right here. And I'm sorry, I do not remember the artist who did this, but this is a solid casting as well. And this is another good interpretation of Brandon Lee. And he's actually sitting on top of the, I guess, the apartment where the window he was thrown out in the movie. And there's like an inscribing right here that says, "Victims, aren't we all?" So that was a pretty neat piece. And I got this to kind of go along with the Nairn piece. So this bust here, I'll just go a little bit over this thing. The reason I included this in here is because, again, the likeness of Brandon Lee, I just think it's really good. Again, I did this one hand painted. Everything that I did on it was not done with an airbrush. So it just goes to show you that you can really get a good paint job by hand. You don't have to have an airbrush to accomplish this. But it was super nice to be able to get this piece. Again, the hair strand was a separate thing, and I think there's one over here in the front that was a separate piece as well. But again, I used pastels and just a paintbrush on it, no airbrushing on it whatsoever. And I think this turned out really, really nice as well. And it makes a good companion piece to the Nairn sculpt. But the detail on this thing is just amazing, that he was actually able to hand sculpt this by himself without any type of digital technology. I can only imagine how long it took him. I mean, if you look at the strands of hair on this, the folds into the suit, into the costume, and even in the boots, and the wrinkles, and the stitching in the boots, and the buckles and everything like that, it's just amazing that this guy did this with just a pair of hand tools, or some hand tools, I guess you could say. If you see how the hair is sculpted, and again, keep in mind that this is all hand sculpted. This is nothing digital. There was nothing 3D printed. This was originally sculpted by hand and eventually casted. And then I think Nairn did the casting himself. But the cast came in, they were beautiful. There were just not much cleanup on them at all. And he did an exceptional job on that. I mean, but like, look at this right here. The wrinkles on the chair itself, it's just amazing how he did all that. And the chair itself is a work of art. I mean, this thing was just sculpted so beautifully and so symmetrical. It's just crazy to think that this was an actual hand sculpt piece. And the paint on it, I guess it was probably like 8, 9, 10 years ago that I did this piece. To do all this by hand, I did a lot of this with paint and with pastels. But I really, really love how this turned out. And it's just a really antique-ish type finish. And I try to get it as close to the movie as possible. But everything is just flowing so well with this piece. It's just unbelievable. Even the base itself, I mean, the rock on it is just sculpted so perfectly. And it just, again, flows with it so well. Now the chair just sits up on there. It's not glued or anything like that. And the figure itself, actually, there's a key where he actually sits into the chair. But it's really heavy. It's not going anywhere at all. But it sits so well. It comes out. It's not glued in or anything like that. So if I ever have to clean it or dust it or anything like that, I basically can just take it up. And it's crazy. But even like this hair was a separate piece right here on the sculpt. That was like one of the I didn't know where it went at first, and then looking at it, I figured it out. But yeah, it's just amazing, the detail to this thing. All right, guys, so thank you for joining me in another blast from the past. If you'd like for me to show these older works of mine, continue to do so, definitely comment below for me and let me know whether you like it or not. By all means, I love doing this sort of thing, and just seeing some of the older works and some of the rare pieces that I have in my collection. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave us a like as well, because this is a way that I like to show some of the older works of some of the older artists, especially before 3D printing really took over. I really like to show some older sculpts of stuff that's been handmade, This is just a work of art that's unlike no other. If you can get your hands on any of these pieces right here at a reasonable price, then do so. You won't be disappointed at all. And don't forget about my Patreon. I do have a link below in the description, and I do have a new person back with us again. That's Live More. Thank you for coming back to us, and I appreciate your support. And if you want to become a member of the Patreon, click on that link below. We do have a Discord, so you can get on there with a bunch of other builders, modelers, and painters, and have several discussions and direct help from me and show off your work and all that good stuff. So there you have it, everybody. Don't forget to get out there and create something. Print, prep, paint, repeat, and stay safe out there. And until the next video, everyone, we'll see you.